Welcome to this year's Crypto Adoption Week, where we will deliver and present the results from four surveys done in the Nordic countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, and finally with a Nordic summary in the end. We are starting with the Crypto Adoption Live for Denmark now today, and we will today both talk about the industry, but also with politics. And we will welcome people on the stage as we go through this webinar. Just to be clear, this webinar is then broadcasted on LinkedIn, YouTube, but also on Kaupr website. And it is also available as a recording on the same link as we are sharing when it comes to these three platforms. And it is so that this event is supported by a lot of companies within the industry. And we give a great thank you from the organizers to K33 Research, which have always done the most hard work doing the surveys during the years, but also this year being followed and supported by Firi and Nordic Blockchain Association, while we in Kaupr, we have a role as a community and media partner. But also Brava Finance, Kvarn, Blockpit, and Define are supporting this survey as well as this week. So we are very grateful for this support. And one of them that we want to talk about and talk with is Jakob from Nordic Blockchain Association. Welcome, Jakob.
Thank you very much, Morten.
And for people that maybe don't know that much about this association, please give a short explanation of what you do and what your mission is.
For sure, Morten. So Nordic Blockchain Association is the largest blockchain association in the Nordic, created almost 10 years ago by people within the industry. Currently, we are membership-driven, ecosystem-driven. We have around 50 plus members, 100 plus partners. We do a lot of activities, we've done 150 plus meetups, we have done working groups. Overall, our vision is that we believe that blockchain can enable transparency where needed. It can create privacy where needed. And we believe here in the Nordic, we've got a strong legacy and history of strong tech companies. And we believe that blockchain should be a big part of that. So what we are working for is in three different pillars. One of them is together with our members. We have steering groups where we work on active things. Like here in Denmark, we're extremely active on the legislation in regards of private taxation. But as well, we do that on a more regional place as well. Then we do the meetup and conferences, and then we really think it's important to have data. And that's why we are extremely happy to be part of this report, because you need data, you need basic understanding of the industry before you can learn. The last thing that would be great to mention as well is that we really want to make sure that people meet in person. So once again, we're doing the Nordic Blockchain Conference, which this year is going to be in Stockholm again, 26th and 27th of May, where we're going to have 1,000 plus attendees, 100 plus speakers, and 15 side events and roundtables. So this is where everyone can come together and then do something.
Yeah, we can show the slide here about and this is the second year in Stockholm. Is that the case?
Yes, a lot of the founding people of the association was in Copenhagen, but throughout the years we really try to be active in all the Nordic countries, and we got board members from each country, and we did Stockholm last year, and we can just see the ecosystem is really growing. So we really just want to double down on Stockholm.
Yes, thank you very much, then, Jakob. We will hear more from you because you will be moderating the political panel around 12:30 if you are following this stream online. And we will then welcome also Karina Rotov-Blix to the stage. and because Firi is one of the partners behind this initiative. So, and we will also hear more from Karina later in this webinar, because she will be joining the industry panel. But tell us something about Firi then, Karina.
I will. First of all, thank you for having me and having Firi. So first of all, we're very happy to be part of the initiative and mainly supporting the data-driven knowledge that we think is lacking in the industry. But in short, who is Firi? We are the largest Nordic crypto exchange with over 400,000 verified users and approximately 1 billion in annual trading volume. So that says maybe a little bit about our size. Since back in 2019, where we launched, we've become the trusted entry point for crypto in the Nordic region. So, and our main focus is within the customer market as for now. To say, for those who don't know Firi, we are a platform that offers a straightforward experience for buying, selling, and managing a wide range of digital assets. We are available via an app and via web with local payment methods and local language support. So we operate under the full regulatory compliance and licenses. But beyond trading, which is basically, you can say it's natural if we're an exchange, we publish market update, podcast, educational content, and crypto guides. So yeah, our focus has been to be reliable and continue to be and making crypto simple and secure. So that's in short who Firi is.
Thank you very much then, Karina, and we will hear more from you later when we are having the industry panel. But now we are going to the core of this webinar, the real findings, the numbers, the trends. And we welcome Vetle Lunde, Head of Research in K33, and Magnus Jones with many hats, but this time with Nordic Blockchain Association. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morten.
And I will just say, give it on, take it away, and let's hear what we have learned from the last year and the situation in Denmark at the moment.
Yes, warm welcomes everyone. As always, it is both interesting and important to take a step back and assess the state of crypto ownership on a per capita basis in the Nordics. That way, we as an industry and the society as a whole can get a better understanding of how big crypto has grown in the Nordics and the implications of this growth. And it's always better to use data than to make qualified guesses. So that's mainly what we try to help with this initiative of doing this service. We mainly try to answer a few key questions. How many people own crypto across the Nordics? And if there are any structural differences between these countries? And then also what the broad perception of crypto is in a given country, and how meaningful this adoption is in the context of other asset classes. And this year's survey is bigger than last year. We have more questions, and this we have to thank Firi and NBA for, given that we now have 8 questions rather than 4 as we did last year. And to have a little look on the questions we have asked, we have kept the questions from last year, trying to understand current ownership rates and whether or not people expect to buy crypto in the future. But we have also added a question regarding whether or not you have owned cryptocurrencies in the past. And if you have owned, why did you decide to sell? We have also tried to identify which kind of cryptocurrencies are most popular in the given countries. And we have in general tried to expand this survey to get an even broader understanding of the tendency here in the Nordics. And as always, this survey is conducted with alongside with Norstat. They have vast representative panels. We have asked 1,000 respondents in each country about these questions. The distribution of the panelists is very broad. You have people from all societal ranges, people living in capitals, people living in rural areas. Age distribution is widely populated, and we hope this adds some good and good information for both us, the industry as a whole, and everyone interested in following the industry onwards. So let's jump straight to it. We see in Denmark that crypto adoption has increased mildly over the past year, growing from 9.8% to 2.4%. This growth is quite robust, keeping in mind how rough the past 6 months have been for the crypto industry. The total crypto market cap is down 50%, but Danish crypto ownership figures are still on a rising trend. We get slightly ahead of us here with the data, but the main findings from the report is that this growth stems from adults aged 30 to 39, and also a growth in female ownership rates. The most common denominator for any crypto owner in Denmark is that the most typical crypto owner in Denmark tends to be a man aged 18 to 40. As many as 1 in 3 Danish respondents within this cohort stated that they own cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency ownership rates are very, very high within this cohort. Further, we also see indications that you are more likely to own cryptocurrencies if you live in a big city, and also the propensity to own crypto increases alongside the household wealth. So this is some of the core findings from the survey this year. And this growth from 9.8% to 10.4% translates to 60,000 new Danish crypto owners over the past year, which is a strong and robust growth, keeping in mind what has happened to crypto markets over the past half year.
And if we look into selecting and diversifying the different age groups, non-surprising, we see that it's the youth that is the majority of the crypto holders. We have seen a strong, significant growth in the age group of 30 to 39 years this year. However, if we look into, for example, 60 plus also, we see a growth there. It's a little smaller, but it's actually quite, compared to the numbers, it's good. But still in the age group of 50, 59, we see a pretty heavy decline in terms of going from 7.1% to 3.6%. But these numbers, they match very well with what we see in other Nordic countries and also general in the rest of the world. And this slide is quite interesting and fascinating, I would say. We have had these data in Norway at the Norwegian survey for many years. And there, I believe we have seen this one in Norway for 6 consecutive years, that in the age group of crypto owners under the age of 40, compared to over 40, we have a higher percentage that owns crypto compared to stocks and shares. And now we see by a small margin, but still underneath the age of 40 in Denmark, we see that we have apparently 350,000 crypto owners, while on the same age group, it's 338,000 who own stocks and shares. While on the other side, the age group of 40, we have seen this in other surveys as well. The majority of people there are holding stocks and shares compared to crypto. So that's also an interesting point of view that we can discuss further in terms of who is actually your target group and how the growth will continue. While on the diversity side, we see that this pattern is still, call it, moving in the same direction. Men are the majority of crypto owners, regardless where you are. We see the same in Denmark. 16.5% are men, while 4.4% are female. However, if we look into the growth in itself from 3.3 to 4.4, it's a good growth when it comes to female. However, we can just mention that the average that we had from last year's survey, when we took all of the Nordic countries into comparison, was 4.5. So hence, compared to last year, Denmark is still not doing very well. And when it comes to the male side, the average was 14.9. So we see a little higher average side, a little higher ownership side when it comes to men compared to also the Nordic average there. So it's an uneven number. And if we look into the numbers themselves, we estimate that it's approximately 110,000 females in Denmark who has crypto assets, while last year it was estimated around 80,000. And when we look into also segregating down to the different age groups and splitting that between men and women, then we see that in the age group from 18 to 40, there we see 1 out of 3 young Danish men are actually holding crypto, which is also then maybe correlating to the fact of the other slide that we saw, that in the age group of 40 and younger, there are more Danes who owns and holds crypto compares to stocks and shares. Then we have also this year a brand new question. We asked about the reason for why you sold your crypto or liquidated your crypto. And we had lots of different alternatives to answer. And these are the ones that were the most popular. Well, people were saying for the main reason, they don't believe in crypto anymore. They're sick and tired of it. But also close to that one, it was to realize profits of gains and wins that they've had when it comes to crypto, followed by the actual need of money in some matter. And we also see a quite strong percentage actually that people have liquidated their crypto in the way that they have lost their access key to their crypto and could not access it anymore, and thereby classified it for tax reasons also as they are lost. However, one of the questions or the alternatives that we asked in the questions was that you liquidated your crypto because of tax reasons, i.e. you had to pay your taxes, and that's the reason. We see that it was a very, very, very small percentage of Danes who answered that as a reason. And that could be interesting to discuss also into the topic of the challenges that Denmark has had and still have when it comes to crypto and taxation. So it's just an anecdote on this side in Sommer.
And looking further into the data to see what kind of cryptocurrencies Danish people tend to own, we see a relatively unsurprising fact that Bitcoin is the commonly most owned cryptocurrency of them all, with more than half of the respondents who currently own cryptocurrencies stating that they own Bitcoin. Ethereum comes up in second place, and generally this ownership pattern tends to mirror what we see in terms of crypto market cap dominance. So the larger the cryptocurrency, the more common it is to own. Where we do see an interesting spike is in Dogecoin and also generally in meme coins, where typical ownership rates are a bit higher than in other cryptocurrencies of the same kind of market size. So this suggests that at least some Danish crypto investors have maybe started to dabble into crypto through meme coins, or at least have meme coins relatively close to their heart. When it comes to stable coins, we found that USDT was more common than USDC, with 7% of respondents indicating that they use USDT, whereas only 4% indicated that they use USDC. We also asked the respondents this year when they first bought cryptocurrencies, and a vast margin, or a relatively big portion of the respondents indicated that they bought crypto first time between 2020 and 2022. As many as 47% of the current Danish crypto owners stated that they bought in this period, with 2021 being the most common year of buying crypto in Denmark. We also find that 16% of respondents indicated that they bought crypto for the first time in 2025. Keep in mind that this was a year of great regulatory progression, and also vast amounts of headlines of institutional initiatives and launches in the space, which might have helped pulling the 2025 adoption numbers higher. And then a question that is interesting, just both to estimate how big crypto may become in the future, but also to gauge the current perception of crypto, is whether or not all of the respondents in the survey expect to buy crypto in the future or not. So we ask the respondents whether or not they expect to buy crypto within the next year, the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or never. Last year, 1 in 3 respondents expected to buy crypto within the next decade. This figure has fell quite dramatically this year to 24%, roughly 1 in 4. We believe that this is mainly caused by the very weak performance of crypto assets over the past 6 months, where this has led to a rise in the risk perception of crypto assets and also reduced the demand for crypto. We see that a relatively substantial amount of the people who expect to buy crypto expects to do it relatively shortly, with 5.6% of all respondents expecting to buy crypto, either buy more or buy for the first time in the next year. And then a further 7% expects to buy within the next 3 years. Drilling down into the data, we see a very interesting observation. And it's maybe not that surprising, but we find that the Danes who own crypto currently are more likely to buy more crypto in the future. And likewise, the Danes who have owned crypto in the past are also more likely to expect to buy crypto in the future than Danish people who currently does not own crypto and has never owned crypto. As many as 81% of the current Danish crypto owners expect to buy more crypto in the next decade. And more than a third of the current Danish crypto owners expect to buy more already this year. Further, more than half of the past crypto owners expect to buy in the next decade, meaning that the past owners are more like warm leads for the market, more expected to buy in the future, and a relatively big portion of these past owners expects to buy also within the next 1 to 5 years. And then as many as 15% of current non-owners and past non-owners expects to buy crypto within the next decade. Adding this all together, we can see that we can end up with a Danish crypto ownership rate of roughly 26.5% in 2036, which is a robust and high figure, and shows that despite the recent downfall in the crypto markets, interest in crypto and expectations to invest in it in the future is relatively high. That said, this is a very good perception indicator of how crypto is perceived. It has crypto has experienced less demand and also less excitement across all age brackets in Denmark over the past year. Last year, more than half of all respondents aged 18 to 40 expected to buy crypto in the future. This figure has fallen below 40% this year. And we also see a declining future expected purchasing rate across all age brackets, albeit a bit less dramatic when we look into older crypto holders. For instance, in the 50 to 59 year segment, the expected future purchasing rate is more or less unchanged compared to last year. Looking at this through the lens of gender, we see the same kind of pattern. Both less male respondents and less female respondents expect to buy crypto in the future, and male respondents are more likely to expect to buy a crypto in the future than female respondents.
When it comes to the preference of where you are to acquire or trade your crypto assets, we have seen that normally Lunar and Firi has been leading the way from the Danish local side here. Last year, Lunar had 20%, so they have had a significant decline there from 20 to 10%, while Firi this year has grown by 2% compared to last year, going from 5 to 7. When it comes to the international ones, we see that numbers are still like they are many places. Coinbase and Binance has the strongest numbers in terms of adoption, and they have more or less been on the same place here. Coinbase declining by 3%, while Binance growing by 3% in some matter. Also looking into the decentralized landscape of, i.e. Uniswap and other DeFi DEXs in some matter, we see that it lays normally around 10% in general, and that's the numbers we see here as well. ETPs, the exchange traded funds or the exchange traded products, is at 9% currently in Denmark. However, last year we had them up to 14%. So we've seen actually a decline there of 5% points in some matter. And that could also be interesting to discuss further in the later parts of the POW. If we are to break down the trading platforms preferences even more in dividing them into local exchanges, as the black brackets are here, the red ones are international exchanges, the gray one, the DeFi DEXs, and the blue, the ETPs, we clearly see that the international ones, they have clearly the strongest presence in some matter of where Danes prefer to trade their cryptos. However, looking into the black brackets, we see a pattern that the Danish ones are growing steadily over time, and also, like it was said initially, building trust in some matter of the whole of the ecosystem.
And then to drill down further into current Danish crypto owners and how much money they have invested in crypto, we find observation that closely resembles what we saw last year, that it is by far most common to own small amounts of crypto among those who currently own crypto. Roughly 2/3 of Danish crypto owners own crypto for less than 10,000 Danish kroners. This is consistent with what we saw last year, and then ownership rates within various volumes decline typically by size, whereas we have seen in this survey a rise in current owners indicating that they own crypto for more than 500,000 Danish kroners. To compare and contrast these figures to what we saw last year, we have estimated the amount of Danish crypto owners within each bracket. This is based on a relatively small sample of the respondents, so one should not interpret this as a true representation of the ownership, but it does show an interesting internal pattern nonetheless. It's a rise in Danish crypto owners who own crypto for less than 10,000 Danish kroners, both within the less than 1,000 kroners bracket and also 10,000 kroners. And then we see that it's fewer Danish crypto owners in the middle this year than it was last year. Then we have identified a small uptick in crypto owners holding crypto for with a bigger size, with the most notable increase occurring in the plus 500,000 Danish kroner ownership range. And through these numbers, we have done the same exercise as we did last year of estimating how much wealth Danes have parked in crypto. This is a very experimental method. It's no true fact, but it does provide a picture of how big crypto has become in Denmark. We look into how many people own crypto within each wealth segment. And then we look at the median value within this segment and multiply that by the amount of people to estimate the size of investments in crypto. As you can clearly see, despite it being far more people owning crypto within the 1,000 to 10,000 Danish kroner bracket, it represents a very small portion of the combined Danish crypto wealth. And you have to look to the whales to see the most notable and meaningful size of Danish crypto wealth. And the growth from last year, which was at 23 billion, is driven by the growth we saw in the plus 500,000 Danish kroner owners in this survey. This might be a result of the current panel or the past panel, but it does show how sensitive the survey is to those big whales, and also how meaningful the few large holders is to the combined wealth held in crypto in Denmark. To further touch upon the topic that we showcased earlier in this presentation, we know by now that it's more common or similarly common among adults aged 40 or younger to own crypto than it is to invest directly in listed equities. Roughly the same amount of people are invested in both. In traditional equities, both in Denmark and globally, we have a very distinct wealth pattern where the older you are, the more wealth you typically have parked in equities or other investable assets. In crypto, which is both dominated by younger investors and also a relatively new asset class, we see a very different and very unique wealth distribution. When we play around with the wealth estimate figures, we find that young adults are far wealthier in crypto terms than older adults. This is, of course, caused by more young adults owning crypto, but it also shows a very interesting and important pattern that young adults are more inclined to invest in crypto also in the future, and that this market is like demographically positioned to experience a very interesting flow once younger adults start to inherit capital from older adults. And this might be a very important phenomenon, not to be disregarded by outsiders. And it shows that the crypto footprint within the younger demographics is very strong.
And then to round it all up here with the last question and findings that we have for this year's survey in Denmark. This is also a brand new question that we have included. And I've seen in the chat that it's been asked about the impact of, among others, RWAs, the real world assets. And this is what we are trying to get a view on by asking the question: what type of crypto products do you use and are involved in? And we have also then, based upon what we have presented now, found, call it the profiles indicated towards what we can refer to as casual holders, which is the call it normal average holder of crypto, which is 67% of them that has less than 10,000 Danish crowns of a value. They use one product that we can see on the right side in the graph on average. And mostly it is the buy-sell functionality that they are using in terms of the mechanisms of some matter. We also pay notice to that meme coins is actually an entry point. So that's also something we can discuss later towards what people mean or feel about meme coins in itself. But it's for sure what we see not only here, but also globally, that's a curiosity element that actually brings people into it. But it should also be stressed that you should understand what you're touching if you're dealing with that one. When it comes to the other classification of typically a profile of i.e. a crypto native profile, we see that these persons are normally in the age group of 30 to 39, which we can refer to as power users, and they have more than values of 100,000 Danish crowns in their portfolio. They use on average 2.2 products, and NFTs, the non-fungible tokens, DeFi, decentralized finance, and privacy coins are the most popular ones that they are using. In addition, that we see that they are using stable coins actively, naturally correlated to navigate within the landscape of both DeFi, the NFTs, and also going in and out of privacy coins in some manner. So if we look into overall, we see that buy-sell mechanisms is the basic use case, followed by NFTs and stablecoins in some manner. When it comes to the question about the real-world assets, we see we have to go further down then to the security and commodity tokens sections, which is a very small percentage in some manner. So when it comes to Denmark, and I would also say in Nordics in general and also other places, it's a lot of talk about these things, but still the average population has not gone into the action of actually acquiring them in some manner. Can also mention that we see that privacy coins actually have a quite strong presence here, close to 10%, normally the same as DeFi, which is what we see in general when it comes to that in other Nordic countries, but also internationally in some manner. So all in all, what we have here for Denmark is, to summarize it, we have approximately estimated 510,000 Danish persons who has crypto assets, which is 10% of all adult population. We have a split between 17 to 4% of male-female, a total wealth of estimately 38 billion Danish crown that is locked up in crypto. And looking into the crystal ball for the future, we could, based upon this survey at least, have tentatively 1.15 million crypto owners by the year of 2035.
Thank you very much, guys, for a very interesting presentation and findings. And I just have a couple of questions just to find out how to understand some of the findings, because as I understand, one main explanation for some of the reductions are based on the market for the last 6 months. And there are also a lot of people that have sold, maybe not only this year, but there was 7.3% that have owned crypto but doesn't own it at the moment. What was the market last year for 12 months ago? And in between we have had a bull market, but now we're sort of in a bear market. Is that the way to look at it, Vetle?
Yeah, so Bitcoin did trade above $100,000 for the better half of the first half year that we that have passed since our last survey. So Bitcoin was in a strong bull market, and also the rest of the crypto sector for like from March last year until October. So that has most likely helped leading to the growth in ownership rates. We have, from experience in Norway, seen that ownership rates tend to decline during years of weak performance. But now, in contrast to past years, it's only lasted for half a year, at least until now. So we haven't seen that same kind of sell-off that we have seen a pattern of in Norway multiple years, both in 2018 and also 2022 in Norway.
One question also to you, Magnus, because this 7.3%, if we compare them to 10.3% owning, that's a rather high number that people have left the space. Of course, there are many reasons for it, as I understand. But do the industry also now have to be more aware not only of getting people on chain, but also keep them there? Is that part of the learning here?
Absolutely, and I think regardless of you look into crypto or whatever, call it new emerging technologies, you will always see that people will come in for curiosity. They will follow the highlights of the newspaper. They will follow them, sort of saying cross-correlating the other way, as the newspapers are writing about the greatest heroes and then suddenly about the greatest fools. So I think we see a common pattern in itself of what we have of our findings. So like you said, Morten, it's a significant number, and also if we look into, call it the total holders of crypto in general that has been in Denmark estimately, it's close to 900,000. So of course it's an important element, like you say, to keep these 400,000 extra people there that could potentially also come back. So that's also something that I think is up for the panel to discuss further on how we can deal with.
Thank you very much then, Vetle and Magnus. And we will then go to the industry panel, and you will then be coming back in the end of the discussion. But we will now then wish welcome to Karina and Marius and Marcus. And we just have to also then make sure that we have room for everybody at the moment. So welcome to Karina, Marius and Marcus. And we just give a short introduction of you guys. Karina is the country manager of Firi in Denmark. Marius Smith, he is working in the Ethereum Foundation. So this is the first time we have a protocol participating in these live broadcasts. And Marcus Mølleskov, he is working in January, which sort of bridge fiat and crypto money. Karina, I thought that we maybe should give first some immediate response and impressions, and maybe we could start with you, Karina. What are your takeaways from this survey?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of information that cementizes the things that we already know. We know that it is mostly for not the younger males, but I think it's interesting to see that we're actually minimizing the gender gap. So that's one takeaway that I think is very interesting in this. Another one is also that I think actually that 10% is quite good when you take into the number of years of degrading crypto in the main media in Denmark, people getting told also by authorities that this is only Ponzi schemes and for criminals. So I think that actually 10% is a quite high number. So, and well, I think that's interesting. And one of the things that we also can see in this survey that we have seen in other surveys is the thing for the future is that the more people actually know about crypto, the more they're eager to invest. And I think it's a very clear sign of people are starting to know more and more. And when you dig into it and when you're curious, then you would actually want to own more of it. So that's some of the takeaways that I'm taking.
What about you then, Marius, from the Ethereum Foundation? And of course, when it comes to adoption, one thing is ownership of Ethereum, and another thing is usage of Ethereum. So maybe you can give some color to that one.
Yeah, I can make some comments generally on that, and I think the survey broadly uncovered that I think like crypto asset is the main, I'd say, as I say, exposure to say digital assets such as like Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of tends to be the predominant ones in Denmark for now. So if you look at the top market cap for assets, the takeaways that I had was that that's what people still kind of tend to invest the most in. So although there was a growth in stable coins, we still saw that like a lot of other asset classes on chain were perhaps a little bit underrepresented, but I think reflects where we're at in terms of crypto adoption in general. I took a few notes like throughout the presentation. I would say in addition to Karina's points, there's a few other things that stood out. I think one was the equity versus crypto exposure. Seeing that crypto is what let's say one of the first asset classes that younger generation get exposure to. I think that's something to watch, and also very interesting development. We're seeing like the emergence of a new type of investor that is say seeking exposure to digital asset as one of the first investments that they make. If I was a bank or someone owning the end user relationship, that's definitely something I would keep an eye on. Interestingly, and I think in addition to that, if you look at where people get exposure, so typically you call it like the on-ramps, like where do I go to buy my crypto assets? It's interesting to see that international sectors still kind of remain the main venues for getting exposure to the assets in the first place. Interesting to see that at least in Denmark for now, we don't have any of, say, the larger banks represented there. We see Luna, but with a small decline, I noted. But still, yeah, these remain kind of the main platforms for exposure. And I think also represent a great opportunity for also more traditional players that are looking to offer like a wide range of services to their clients. I would say those were like probably some of the kind of key main takeaways that I just noted down as we kind of went through this.
And then to you, Marcus.
Yeah, I noticed that the growth has kind of halted. I think maybe that has something to do with all the talk that there were in 2025 relating to the tax issues in Denmark. That's potentially why Danish adoption was a bit less in 2025 compared to earlier years and compared to other countries. Hopefully we will get that fixed in 2026, and maybe we can get a lot of new articles in the newspapers and stuff talking about how crypto taxation has now been solved, and hopefully that could then make 2026 catch up with all the stuff that weren't adopted in 2025. At least that's my hope. Then I think it's interesting to see that it's no longer the youngest people that are adopting, but we have seen a lot of adoption in the 30 to 39. So more people in my own age group that is, out in the marketplace, out in the workforce, those kind of things, who now start to look at crypto. And hopefully that means that there will be more people on the floor and in middle management of large institutions and corporations who will now start to know more about crypto and see an idea in potentially using crypto as part of the corporate treasury or corporate transactions or anything like that. So I do think that there's a big opportunity for seeing more institutional, more corporate adoption based on these numbers.
Do you agree on this, Marius? Because Ethereum is sort of being the back end of what is happening in the building of the new finance pavement and investment rails. So are you sort of the solution for adoption in the next phase?
We are one of the solutions. Let me put it that way. So we try to stay, I would say, credibly neutral at the Ethereum Foundation, but Ethereum is definitely one of the infrastructure layers being explored for a lot of, I think, on-chain pilots generally, especially for financial institutions. And I think as a comment to markets, perhaps it's funny to see that, and I agree, like the sentiment overall, let's say, is down, and I think also like largely reflected in the survey here among what we would like typically call retail investors. But if you look at the institutional adoption, that's actually quite the reverse, right? So even though the overall crypto market is down, we have, I think, not seen the number of experiments and the number of conversations we have with financial institutions today anywhere anything near that previously. So I think while crypto market is down, I think there's still a lot of exploration happening, and so those are not necessarily correlated.
No, and that hasn't shown up yet in the numbers either, because I think Magnus mentioned the numbers related to securities, but of course that is maybe still in the pilot phase, a lot of different areas. Is that the case, Marcus, or will we have to have this stablecoin development first and then the security development?
I mean, my personal opinion is that in order to get the real benefits of tokenized financial assets, we do need more stablecoin adoption. So today there's $2 trillion worth of shares traded on the US stock exchange daily, and we only have 300 billion issued in stablecoins. So of course, if we were to tokenize all shares, we wouldn't be able to trade them because there's not enough issued stablecoins to facilitate that volume of share trading. So we need more stablecoin adoption before we can start to reap the benefits of tokenized financial assets. But I'm sure that's coming. I've been in a few conferences the last couple of weeks where a lot of large institutions were talking about stablecoins and talking about stablecoin uses and how they were going to adopt it. We also see, again, with the Danish angle, we saw Danske Bank go together with 9 other banks and create a bank-backed stablecoin, which is going to be pan-European. So I do think that there's some things in the pipeline that is potentially going to be really good for stablecoin adoption. And then stablecoin adoption is kind of like a gateway drug to traditional crypto and tokenized financial assets.
If we go back to retail, Karina, and we look at the numbers, and we see that the global crypto exchanges are still dominating, while maybe in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, the local crypto exchanges or brokers are having a larger share of the market. Is this because of the lack of local suppliers, or is it the tax question that is the main reason?
I think it's a combination of several things. I think, first of all, a lot of the numbers that we see in the international exchanges are from the first movers, the ones that were early in crypto, as has been like used to using Coinbase and Binance. And so there's definitely issue on it's easier to use just the things that I use right now. But there's also the fact that even though people have read something about the DAC 8 and the exchange of the tax information across borders, they're still very like, yeah, let me see if that is actually true. So I'll keep my money where it is right now on a huge international exchange, and then if they notice it, the tax authorities, then I will have to be compliant with it. So I think that people are waiting to see what is actually happening before they feel the need to move on to local exchanges. So that's one thing. I also think that there's a lot of other possibilities right now on the international exchanges. So in terms of both the number of coins, but also other possibilities. So I don't actually think it's a lack of local actors, because you can see that there is a lot, both Luna Bank and Penning and Firi and others. But of course, the knowledge about those are less because none of us have the marketing budget that the bigger ones do. So I think it's a combination of those three.
I think either Magnus or Vette mentioned that maybe the coolness of the sector has cooled down. That's what way of saying it. Is then, are we in a sort of a changing phase where the institutions and the traditional finance is taking over the lead on related to adoption, while the retail investors are not that eager as they were before? I mean, are there still these promises about the Bitcoin ownership, about decentralized ownership, and so on? What do you think, Marcus? Is there a change going on?
I think so. I also think that part of it is due to the prices, right? So when prices increase, people flood in to be a part of the gains, and when prices decrease, some people leave, some people get burned, never to return, which is unfortunate. But the institutional players who have been in traditional financial markets for many, many years, they know that it is times like this when prices are low that is a good time to buy up. So that is one of the reasons that we are seeing more institutions adopting, more institutions getting crypto on the balance sheet and those kind of things. And then again, with the whole tokenized financial assets, they see the benefits of using tokenized financial assets. And now we're starting to have the regulation in place. So we saw MiCA coming into force 1st of January 2025. We're now seeing the Genius Act in the US coming in. We're starting to see the Clarity Act in the US. We're starting to see the UK crypto regulation, those kind of things. So we're starting to see a lot of more regulation that is now coming into force, which means that the financial institutions can begin to interact with crypto, which before that they really couldn't, because they were afraid that the regulator were going to come and hit them in the head for not being compliant. But now there is a way for them to interact with crypto, and now they're starting to look into it. Then there's of course always innovators and laggards, right? So there's some banks where the directors are still saying that everything related to crypto is criminal, we're never going to touch it. And then you have other banks and financial institutions that are actively looking into it, actively building new things and adopting. So it's a range, but we are seeing more and more adoption going on at the moment.
What do you think then, Marius? Are we seeing an inflection point?
We're definitely seeing an inflection point. I think a lot of banks and fintechs are currently thinking about their broader, I'll call it digital asset strategy, because it's not just cryptocurrencies, right? I think to Marcus' point, it's how do we enable, let's say, a new financial stack more broadly? How do we look into a world that is becoming increasingly tokenized? That starts with figuring out like what are the rails we need to have in place to support this new asset class? Does that align with our regulatory requirements? Are we comfortable with this from like a compliance risk perspective? And then there's a lot of different use cases that are being explored now, right? So we perhaps started with cryptocurrencies, and I think that's it's like some people still have doubts around those, and that tends to go in different cycles. But there are also like other core plumbing in the industry happening right now. So people are looking into stablecoins, for instance. People are looking into tokenized equities. People are looking into how can we democratize access to other yield products, for instance, that perhaps were only available to institutional investors previously. And how can we enable that through front ends that people can understand, where you perhaps abstract away some of the complexity that is to interact with these assets on chain, which is, for those that have not invested previously, not the easiest of things to perhaps do. So I think there's a lot of core infrastructure work happening right now, and that has been going on for a while, despite the volatility that we see in the crypto asset market specifically, and that will continue, and that will persist. And we are at an inflection point now where I think a lot of a lot of banks and financial institutions are eyeing that opportunity and seeing also that they need to get ready to be able to support this new technology and these new financial primitives that will live on chain.
How does this look at from your viewpoint, Karina? Because we have also seen that Firi has been strengthening their team on the institutional side. So are you ready to go from being a retail focused exchange to also compete on the institutional side?
Yeah, I think definitely it's not just about competing, it's also about partnering up. I think when the big institutions are looking into this space and when they get a little bit more knowledge about it, they will find out that it's not just like a plug and play. It's actually a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience they need into a whole new industry, not just the infrastructure, but also how do you apply the different rules. And be compliant with all of those things. So it's a completely new setup and industry that you have to go into, you have to navigate it. And first of all, you also have to like integrate it with the infrastructure and this organization and systems that you already have in place, which is also another layer on top of just understanding the blockchain industry. So I'm positive that we will see a lot of partnerships instead of just the institution and the banks making it themselves. So that's what I'm expecting to see in the future, and Firi is definitely ready for that. I'm also eager, and I actually expect, maybe not in the next year, but in the next couple of years, to see that all the, how can you say, the normalized situation where more banks are talking about it. Markus talked about Danske Bank. We've also seen Nordea come up with their ETP product. We know that some banks are talking about launching some spot exchange as well in Denmark. So, and I think that would like make it normal for the consumer side to actually go into crypto, whether then they are going to invest through their banks and the bank related products or directly in crypto, I don't know, but I think we're going to see that it's going to be more normal to invest in crypto as it is with gold, for example.
I thought that maybe the time is also to get back some of the other people that we have and maybe widen the discussion a little bit. I thought that we also could include some of the questions that we have had, for instance, commenting on LinkedIn. And Johan Schmidt here, maybe this is for you, Vetle. He asks whether you could clarify how this data set was created and the numbers.
Yes, so the data is built using Norstat, which is a big survey company and that has vast amounts of respondents across all kinds of people within a given country. You have people of varying ages, varying incomes, varying backgrounds, varying areas of residence. So it's a representative panel of the Danish population. It is not extracted from any crypto exchange or from any poll. It's using the same kind of polling dynamics as any kind of political poll you would see in any given country. So the data gives a very good representation of the broader trends within the Danish population and also later on the other Nordic countries' ownership rates of crypto.
We also had a comment here from Mats Brodén that tried to understand this difference between the different generations. I mean, what kind of assets do they start with and what do they continue with? Are there any one of you guys that want to comment on this?
I'm happy to make one comment at least. We know from this survey and from past surveys that younger adults are more inclined to use crypto than older adults. We saw a relatively low usage of RVAs and stablecoins currently within the general Danish crypto owner. but the likelihood of young adults currently involved in 24/7 markets seeking to invest in more, call it traditional assets through crypto products is far higher than the older generation. So I think it's just a matter of time until we see this flow start to materialize. And I think Mats is pretty much spot on a very important development that the industry should be very aware of.
Maybe another one then about currencies and stablecoins, and I think that maybe you, Magnus, could comment on this because you have been part of different roundtables in the last couple of weeks in the Nordics discussing stablecoins, which seems to be an animal that everybody tries to understand.
Yes, stablecoins is for sure a hot topic in some matter, and we had FSA roundtable now at Stockholm FinTech Week. We at NBA, we arranged, and K33 and a couple of others arranged one on that one, and Nordea also had an invite-only roundtable on stablecoins. So I think it copies very well with what has been said with the panel here, that the institutional side are definitely waking up to it. Of course, this is a key, call it discussion element, like Marcus mentioned about, call it the technicalities about them. And we had this one up for discussion among authorities and banks and other stakeholders like the Nordics, i.e. Norway, Sweden, Denmark. We have our own currencies. So then naturally, should we then include a stable on our local currency? And I would say from what I saw from the question, it disappeared here, but if I understood, it was like out to the consumer market. If that was correctly, Morten, was that the question? Because if it relates to the consumer market, I would say there's not a need at all. We don't need a SEK stable or a DKK stable or a NOK stable for the consumer market. However, for banking infrastructure on the back-end side, for settlements, for building up, call it the infrastructure, like Karina also mentioned, there I see a use case for it in some matter. But if we look into the perspective of, call it the moments of liquidity for a SEK or a DKK or a NOK stable, I don't see a clear demand from the rest of the world. But from the banking perspective, as said, I see a use case that is being also discussed from some matter.
Karina, you wanted to join in. I'm not quite sure of the topic, but you get on it.
It was actually the earlier question around the adoption with that Vetle commented on, in terms there's both like the risk aspect for the males in that age group, but I also think it's more about this is a generation that has been like more digital. They are like so used to just testing out new things. They've grown up with all of the new things coming up. Testing apps going in, and we see it in the way that it's also just small amounts. So you can test a lot when you have just smaller amounts. It's not that dangerous. And then the other part is also, where do you get your news from? I see a big difference in the fact that you get your news from, it could be influencers, it could be a variety of social media, and then you jump to the 45 and plus, and then it's still a lot of Flow TV and another thing. So it depends on where you get your news streams on. Then you're more eager to say, okay, here's a possibility, and maybe also understand that crypto is global, where the main media in Denmark are pretty much very local still. So crypto doesn't have that big of a space or a future for that matter.
I have a question also for you, Jakob. Of course, Nordic Blockchain Association is also very focused on building utility and different kinds of use cases that can make sense in the society. But again, back to the crypto industry, it hasn't been that large in Denmark compared to the other Nordic countries. But is this movement towards stablecoins, toward tokenization, the integration with the traditional finance, is that a new opportunity for Denmark?
I think for sure, for the understanding of the technology, I think this is great, right? I think you can call it the ChatGPT moment, maybe to put it into perspective, right? It's been really hard for people to understand what is actually blockchain, what is it used for. Have been a lot around trading, NFT, meme coins, right? But the whole thing of the utility. So the stable coin coming into play, and we see larger bank now having concrete plans on it. It's some kind of turning the direction of the usage towards something real. And if you look into that, a lot of things are actually going on. Historically, haven't really made any sense to build here in the Nordic region, but I think there's also maturity, so people are coming back. But as well now, stablecoin are coming in, you see more people building something. So we see people doing something in around real world assets, shipping industry. We see it in the supply chain. We see it in the energy sector. We see it in the healthcare sector. So there's a lot of things going on, but I think it's important to state as well, not everything needs to be traded, right? So a lot of companies are now starting using blockchain, but not on a tradable exchange because they don't need the liquidity. So we really hope that this stable coin, these as well, like private taxation, like some of these things will be solved. So it's more discussion of what can blockchain as a technology be used for. So we're seeing it's changing, but I think it's right assumption saying because it's been so much about trading, bad legislation, we haven't picked up the same speed here in Denmark as we had in other countries, but we see things are likely changing, but we need to have the taxation in place. A lot of people get salaries in crypto if you're part of a project, and being unaware of your financial situation, if you get salaries or you get warrants, just like you get in startups, that uncertainty need to be fixed before we can really see some real adoption in the utility space.
Maybe we should start rounding up this panel, and I will give everybody the possibility to think what is the major things that may happen, for instance, to the next year when we have a new crypto adoption survey and crypto adoption week. What do you expect happening, and what can the industry do to make it real? What do you think about it, Marcus?
As said before, hopefully we will fix the tax issue that we currently have in Denmark for private taxation of crypto gains. If that is solved and we could get some kind of media stir going up that now crypto taxation is solved and now crypto taxation is fair, then maybe we can get more private individuals to start adopting. Again, if prices also go up, if they go back towards the 120 or even further, then that could also create a lot of attention to the crypto market that could drive adoption. So I do think that there's a lot of opportunities of good places to go from here.
What do you think then, Marius, and what kind of role can Ethereum play in future adoption?
That's a very good question. I'll say generally, there was a fun stat in the survey that I think by 2036, 1/4 would have exposure or something like that. I think a lot of the innovation that we'll see will probably be less visible to the main consumer. So a lot of people will get exposure to crypto, whether they like it or not, indirectly, because the financial rails are undergoing, let's say, a larger transformative process. That's what we see if you look to other markets like the US, where there's at least a dozen stablecoin projects being launched, for instance. So this transformation will most likely happen whether people agree to it or not. And I think it's a matter then of how people figure out how they get exposure. I think for next year, we'll hopefully see a lot more experimentation in Denmark as well, with not only crypto assets but also stable coins and the like. I think Jacob mentioned one pilot that's undergoing with a consortium of banks and a euro stable coin. I think consumers will increasingly just be faced with these opportunities, and hopefully more will adopt not only crypto assets but also try and play around with the technology more broadly, so that they can see the benefits themselves. I think to Magnus's point, that can it doesn't only have to be institutional, but like once you see the light, once you make a stablecoin transfer from one foreign country to another, you see how quick it settles, you see how little it costs versus your traditional bank transfer. Your eyes will open, and I think a lot of institutions are also kind of seeing that as well, also in the Nordics, and thinking more about that, let's say more broadly and strategically as well.
And then let's hear from you, Karina.
Well, it might sound a little bit disappointing, but I actually don't expect an increase next year in the total number. I expect a reallocation of the numbers that are the level that we are at right now, unless, of course, we have an insane bull market all of a sudden. But otherwise, I would expect just a reallocation in the terms of people will move their assets from international exchanges, because they will find out that as I said earlier, the knowledge sharing about the tax issue, it makes it so much easier to just have it on a local exchange where you are completely sure that every rule is followed. So that's one of the things. I also expect that we're going to see the tax solved, as mentioned, but I will expect that to be after the first Danish banks is actually like entering into the space. I think that would be the push for the tax authorities in Denmark to change the rules, and not before, unfortunately.
Then to you, Vetle.
Yeah, I think both Karina and Marius touch upon two very important topics, and I agree with Karina that like the perceived crypto adoption probably will not rise in the next year unless the markets starts moving higher. But the tendency of local exchange growth in Denmark is quite remarkable over the 3 years we have done the survey. So this point toward Danish users moving back locally. And then in terms of like this survey measures crypto adoption from the perception of a retail user of crypto, whether or not the banking plumbing starts to utilize crypto technology like open blockchains or launches stablecoins or do something structurally with payment transfers is not something that will be necessarily visible for the end users and all the retail participants that we question in this survey. So I think that will be a very important phenomenon in the coming year, and that it will be more or less everyone will utilize crypto technology in one way or the other in the next few years, but it won't be something that we can observe in changes in ownership data in this survey. That will be mostly connected to ownership in what you could call traditional cryptocurrencies and the entrance through local or international exchanges.
What about you then, Magnus?
Yes, I agree with Vetle there in terms of also call it maybe separating the markets a little, as this is a consumer survey in itself. So like Karina said, I don't expect a booming number going skyrocket next year for Denmark, unless Jacob or some of the other great initiative takers in Denmark manage to actually solve the tax issues and we get a positive aura surrounding it. These things can clearly play a key role into it, because we see consumers in general who enters into this one for the first time, they are, call it, touchy towards what is written on the headlines of newspapers, while we see a growth in general. So I would expect at least a small growth, but on the other side of what we talked about of the industrialized side of this one, i.e. when we see Danish banks and other Nordic banks are joining consortium like the Kvarn that was mentioned here, and that is growing from not only 9 banks to 12 banks and so matter, I believe that we will see the growth continue there on the back end side. Not the side that you will read about on the front pages of the media or the politicians discussing it or whatever, but we will see the growth coming. However, having said that, I think we need to be humble there also to say that we are at a very early stage. They are investigating, they're building, but I know from, call it, sitting on the inside of this one, that there's a lot of things also happening in the Nordics. So I wouldn't be surprised if we would see a further heavy movement on that one, but it will not be anything that will be directly affected, I believe, towards the net consumer relevance towards it as of now. But for the future, clearly, like Vetle said, in the coming years, they of 1 to 3, it will be a movement that will go on. And we haven't even mentioned the buzzword of the current state, which is agentic AI, i.e. when the bots are starting to talk to each other and they need to clear a settlement. And this is where stablecoins are a perfect fit. This is what MasterCard, Visa, all the big intermediate players are not only talking about, but actually doing stuff surrounding. So this is also correlated naturally towards what we see of the banking TradFi joining their consortiums to build and get a better grip surrounding this part. And in so matter, I think we shouldn't be surprised if we see more and more solutions coming up where also you and me as consumers can in different way interact with this one by i.e. using stablecoins on the back end side. But then I think we need to also look and see, is that being dealt with by i.e. a custodian, exchange, keeping these assets like Firi, K33 or others, or are you doing it as a native crypto user yourself? We need to separate these things because a new entry person into this one, it's not easy to just go in and keep the stable yourself, etc. And this is why we need to look into, call it the growth from different variations. So it's a complex landscape, but in general, to summarize it, I think we will see a growth next year also.
Maybe you, Jakob, also will look into the future.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm actually extremely positive. The private taxation is quite a big thing. I feel extremely comfortable it will be solved this year. We heard about Kvarn's stablecoin. We heard about Mayo's in regards to financial infrastructure. Like if we're getting that fixed, we're going to have banks using the technology. We have 10% of all Danes people know what the technology is. Like one thing is the trading, but that means those 10 people work somewhere, right? So I think there's this thing of having financial infrastructure legislation in place. That's where I think it becomes exciting because that's when people are going to build. So I think this whole utility, this whole developing like real world solution, that's something that will happen. Maybe not within the next year, but within the next couple of years. And as soon as we start seeing that, we've been quite engaged with UN and UNDP. Like UN are actually be using blockchain to basically solve some of the biggest problem we have in the world, right? Like, so I mean, we are seeing this adoption. So I'm extremely positive, to be honest, because I think taxation would be clarified. We'll have the financial infrastructure in place, and that's where people are actually going to start build something which is a lot more tangible. Some of the things will be AI agent that need to settle something that we're not going to see. Something is going to be stablecoin that consumers not going to see. But for sure, I feel extremely comfortable. We're going to see solutions really doing it different out there. And when we start seeing that, then the media picture will change as well. So I'm really positive. I think 10% is a lot. Like 10% is a lot of people that actually know what the technology is. So I think it's getting these things settled, have some good utility use cases. Then I think the number is going to increase quite a lot. Of course, prices and things like that matter, right? But I think for most people, it's seeing the real usage, which I feel quite comfortable will happen within the next couple of years.
Thank you very, very much to the presenters and to the sponsors and to the partners that took place in this discussion. I just want to mention that we are also online and live tomorrow at the same time, 11 o'clock, with the results and the findings from the Swedish survey, also with a panel of different people participating in the discussion. And to be clear about that, we also have the whole week in front of us, because tomorrow we will have Sweden. On Wednesday we will present the results and discuss the results from the Finnish survey. That will be in local time in Finland, 11 o'clock, while in European time it will be at 10 o'clock. And on Thursday, there will be 2 different events, one on the Norwegian findings and the second one on the Nordic findings. And we have seen a lot of interest for the Nordic events also from abroad beyond the Nordics. So that will be interesting to discuss and see how also the Nordics can fit into a larger place to be. We are also then closing up then this session about the industry, and we will now then continue with the politicians, and we will give the word to Jakob. You just can start talking, and I will then change the layout on the screen so that we also can then invite a couple of politicians to this debate. And maybe you can start with explaining why is this an interesting topic at the moment.
For sure. Thank you very much, Morten. And just for everyone listening in, as soon as we start with the public elected, we'll change to Danish. But of course, we'll make sure there is some more information going out in English afterwards. So first of all, I think the reason why this is extremely important is that we want to make sure that we have our overall discussion, right? Like crypto taxation is one thing, but from a more high-level perspective, blockchain is a technology that can be used for multiple different things. We believe it's important that Denmark have a strong position about a technology. This could go for AI, it could go for deep tech, it could go for everything, right? In general, technology is something our region, Denmark and Scandinavia, historically have been extremely strong within. So we want to make sure that we spend time on educate public elected. Luckily, we have someone who really understands it. But of course, like with any subject, it takes time to learn. So that's why we have done a couple of initiatives. So tomorrow is election day in Denmark, which is quite a big thing. A couple of weeks ago, we launched a crypto list where we basically found the public elected who have been proactive towards the technology. As well, we made a list where people could sign up. And that's something we have published because we think it's important for the crypto owners and the people that find blockchain interesting, that they know who which public elected are actually doing something at Christiansborg towards them. And that's why as well, like we feel extremely lucky that we have some public elected that want to join today's panel. And we were supposed to have 3 participants today, but unfortunately Mohammed Rona is stuck on an interview with TV2, so he couldn't join. But I promised to share for him that Moderaterne is fighting to get the private crypto taxation on regeringsgrundlaget, so he's really fighting the things. But I'll now switch to Danish and welcome the rest. Hej Steffen og Markus, mange tak fordi I kunne join. Vi har haft et lidt længere forløb, hvor det hele har været på engelsk, men nu skifter vi til dansk. For at sætte scenen lidt, så er der jo valg i morgen, og det er jo en kæmpe stor ting. Der er jo mange ting, der står på spil, og man kan jo sige, at blockchain krypto er jo kun en lille del af det, men for 510.000 danskere er det her jo en stor del. Så det vi rigtig godt vil diskutere med jer i dag, det er, at vi egentlig vil give jer muligheden for at kunne forklare lidt om jeres holdninger, jeres synpunkter. Vi har lavet nogle topics, vi godt kunne tænke os at snakke om. Status på Danmark, hvordan ser vi står lige der? Hvad synes I egentlig, den politiske rolle er? Og så lidt om regulering. Det er de områder, vi godt kunne tænke os at tage ind på. Før vi starter, så vil jeg gerne give en instruktion til os, så vil jeg bare lige friske op, hvad 2026-tallene egentlig viser. Og jeg ved ikke, om I har haft mulighed for, at de jo lige kommer ud, om I har mulighed for at se dem, men bare lige for at summere op. Der er 510.000 danskere over 18, der nu ejer krypto. Det svarer cirka, hvis man regner tallene ud, til at der er ejet krypto for 38 millioner danske kroner. Udviklingen, hvis man kigger på, hvordan folk ser på, om de vil eje det er 26% regner med, at de vil eje krypto i 35. Og her er det faktisk en negativ tendens. Sidste år, der var det 1/3. Så er der jo sket noget fra 25 til 26. Der er 62.000 flere, der ejer krypto. Så det er 10,4% i år. Sidste år var det 9,4%. Så der er stadig en øgning, men positivt tilsagn om man vil eje det, er faktisk faldet. I forhold til mænd og kvinder, så er det 17% af alle mænd, der ejer, og 4% af alle kvinder. Det var lidt baggrunden, og nu tænker jeg, at jeg vil give jer muligheden for at introducere jer selv. Vi har en lille halv time, så giver jeg egentlig god tid, et par minutter til at forklare lidt om jer selv, og hvad I går og laver. Jeg vil næsten give ordet til dig først, Steffen.
Ja, tak for invitationen. Dejligt at se det her vigtige emne blive bragt op lige dagen inden valget, og fedt, vi også var flere, der kunne deltage i snakken. Jeg er siddende medlem af Folketinget fra LA, og må vi se, om det er også et mandat, der strækker ind efter i morgen, men det håber jeg på. Jeg søger genvalg. Jeg er spidskandidat for LA i Nordsjælland, og så har jeg inden jeg hoppede ind i politik for 3,5 år siden, så har jeg en baggrund i tech-iværksætteri og startups, hvor jeg har bygget egne virksomheder og været direktør for dem. Jeg har også hoppet ombord på andres spændende scale-ups og bygget opstartsvirksomheder sammen med større corporates, så jeg har ligesom prøvet det hele, og ved siden af politik, så driver jeg en venturefond, der hedder Like-Minded, hvor vi selvfølgelig også er interesseret i nye teknologier på blockchain og i kryptospacet mere generelt. Den sidste valgperiode har jo i virkeligheden været lidt i sådan et skridt frem og et skridt tilbage, eller et skridt tilbage og måske et skridt frem på kryptomiljøet, hvor der ikke rigtig er sket noget fra den siddende regering, og vi sågar det måske mest opløftende, de kom med, det var, at vi ændre reglerne, og så foreslog noget, der var meget værre, og det fik vi så kæmpet af bordet. Så det er virkelig på tide, at der bliver gjort noget ordentligt, og i dit oplæg, der snakker du især om privatbeskatning af kryptoaktiver på bred forstand. Det skal der gøres noget ved, tiden er moden til det.
Ja, så kan jeg jo hoppe over.
Ja, mange tak.
Ja, det er helt i orden. Jamen, jeg hedder Markus Danielsson, og jeg er opstillet for Venstre i Region Sjælland. Og jeg sidder ikke i Folketinget på nuværende tidspunkt, men kæmper en brav kamp for egentlig at blive valgt. Mit daglige arbejde, det er i sundhedsvæsenet faktisk, hvor blandt andet udvikling og teknologi, det er jo noget, man stærkt prøver at implementere og ser muligheder for det. Og til daglig bor jeg i Slagelse med min hustru og har 2 børn. Og i forhold til, hvad min indgangsvinkel er i forhold til det her med krypto og blockchain, så er det egentlig en anerkendelse af, at teknologien er kommet. Vi ser, at der er flere, der får det, og det kommer til at brede sig, så det er vigtigt, at vi egentlig lægger tryk på den her udvikling. Og min vinkel, det er egentlig, at jeg vil kæmpe for, at blandt andet Venstre, som er jo et centrum-højre parti, kommer op i gear, hvad det her angår. Altså, der er nogen, der har vist vejen, og jeg synes egentlig, det er meget logisk, hvad der egentlig er brug for, og egentlig også lægge tryk på. Så den kamp, den vil jeg gerne være med til at løfte op. Så det er, jeg kommer ikke med den, hvad skal man sige, den helt store faglige og erhvervsmæssige baggrund inden for det, men jeg har nogle principielle holdninger til i forhold til, hvordan er det, vi gør beskatning, hvordan er det, vi laver samskabelse i forhold til lovgivning og myndigheder og indgangsvinkel til EU. Så det er sådan set min rolle, som jeg ser det, det er, jeg vil være med til at løfte jeres sag op inde i Venstre og fortsætte kampen for, at der bliver lagt tryk på, at vi skal sørge for at have en fair lovgivning på området, en transparent lovgivning, sådan så det ikke bliver, at vi skræmmer markedet væk, og vi faktisk hæmmer udviklingen af det her område.
Enig. Jeg synes, det er utrolig vigtigt, og hvis måske lige starter lidt op i helikopteren, måske med dig, Steffen. Hvad synes du sådan generelt med din erfaring fra teknologi? Hvad synes du egentlig sådan statusen er i Danmark? Altså, hvordan inde på Christiansborg, hvordan ser I egentlig på blockchain? og så måske hente lidt hen til at sige, sådan, hvad er egentlig jeres rolle? Nu har du også en entreprenørbaggrund, så man kan sige, der er altid en diskussion, hvad er politisk reelle rolle, og hvordan fremmer de det på den bedste måde?
Hvis jeg lige må starte helt bredt op, så er Danmark jo et sted, hvor vi har ekstremt dygtig humankapital på tech-siden. Altså vi er ufattelig mange ekstremt dygtige mennesker, som der ser teknologibølger komme tidligt, hopper med på dem, udnytter dem, bygger på dem, investerer tidligt i dem osv. Så vi er faktisk ekstremt godt kørende, hvad det angår. Så på teknologisiden, så har vi ikke noget at skulle undskylde nogen, og vi har sådan set alle komponenter, der skal til. Vi har endda også kapital i Danmark. Men vi har et meget, meget dårligt politisk miljø, der bliver ved med at sætte barrierer op for, at de her dygtige mennesker kan indfri deres potentialer og få bygget de teknologier, der er undervejs. Og det er endda sågar så slemt, så at de må tage til USA med deres teknologi for at møde danske penge, som så også er taget til USA igennem pensionsmidlerne for at blive investeret i venturefonde derovre. for det ligesom er derovre, det sker. Og det er bare et rigtig godt eksempel på summen af kardemommen, vi står i vejen politisk, og det skal vi lade være med at gøre. Og det er sådan set egentlig et af hele hovedargumenterne for, at jeg overhovedet så det som en ting at gå ind i politik til at starte med for knap 4 år siden, hvor jeg rakte hånden op og tænkte, det kunne jo godt være noget for mig. Det er, at jeg så bare i min egen virke hele tiden, hvordan politik blev ved med at sætte snubletråde ud. Så i stedet for at være en medspiller, eller måske bare en ligegyldighed, så var det en aktiv modspiller. Og det er det jo i særdeleshed også på kryptoområdet, og det skal vi have vendt.
Og hvad tror du, der kan være, hvis vi snakker helt generelt krypto? Er det det dårlige omdømme, de dårlige historier? Er det mangel for forståelse? Fordi man kan sige, en teknologi, der er bygget på gennemsigtighed. Altså, jeg kan jo ikke se, hvad politisk parti det ikke skulle passe ind i. Og muligheden for, at du kan diskutere, hvad skal der være gennemsigtighed på? Hvad skal der være privat? Altså helt grundinfrastrukturen. Kan du prøve på at uddybe, hvad er dit take på, hvad der er gået galt?
Ja, altså det kommer jeg til at forklare bredere, fordi den gode nyhed, det er, at det ikke kun krypto og blockchain, som er ramt af det her. Den dårlige nyhed er, at det er der så rigtig mange andre, der er ramt af, og det gælder alt lige fra atomkraft til, hvordan vi kunne lave innovation på banker til altså stort og småt maddeleordninger. Hvis man laver det ud af sit eget køkken, det er forbudt, hvis man ikke har en smiley-ordning osv. Man kan bare blive ved. Og det er, fordi vi har en eller anden kulturel forståelse for teknologi, som noget, vi skal være halvbange for. Altså jeg skriver et andet sted, at vi sådan set egentlig vælger forkert i Prometheus-myten, hvor det jo handler om at bringe ilden til menneskene. Og fordi ild jo både kan lyse og give varme, så er det jo sådan set egentlig har nogle gode sider, men man kan også brænde sig på det, og så har det nogle negative sider. Men i Prometheus-myten, der er lærdommen lidt, at man skal jo ikke forbyde ild, eller lade være med at have ild hos menneskene. Det var sådan set egentlig en god ting, at de fik det, selvom at det også har en bagside af medaljen. Vi lærer bare at tøjle det, og forstå det, og udnytte det, og ramme det ind, og så udnytte alle dets gode sider. Og det er også det, vi skal gøre på teknologi sådan mere generelt. Og det er også det, der sker på kryptoområdet. Det er, at alle de gode sider, det får vi ikke indfriet, fordi at der er en potentiel bagside med, jeg kan bare nævne, det som de papegøjer hele tiden, det er jo sådan noget som økonomisk kriminalitet, og vi skal kende din kunde, og hvidvaskning osv. Og det er der sikkert også måder, hvorpå man kan inden for krypto få bedre styr på, det skal man også anerkende, men der er så mange bedre sider af medaljen, at selv skulle der være de minuser, så er der stadigvæk 200 plusser, vi går glip af, og det er meget symptomatisk for, hvordan vi tilgår tech i det hele taget i Danmark.
Enig. Markus, jeg ser du?
Ja, altså kvæg min verden i sundhedsvæsenet, så ser man det også lidt på den anden side, forstået på den måde, at nogle gange politikere kan komme med et rigtig godt formål, men så blokerer de faktisk for det, der egentlig konkret bliver vurderet behov for, ude i den enkelte afdeling på det enkelte sygehus. Og det kommer de jo med et afsæt i, at det er rigtig også nemt at sælge, når man står inden for en medie eller noget andet, vi gør sådan og sådan. Men så står der dem, der rent faktisk ved noget om det, og tænker, hvor i alverden kommer den her idé fra? Altså, hvor er vores inddragelse? Hvad er samskabelsesprocessen i det her? Altså, hvor har I bare trukket det op af lommen, eller hvad er det, der sker? Og efter min forståelse, så er det noget af det samme, der sker her. Der er ufattelig lidt viden, også rent politisk, men det skulle jo heller ikke undre mig, ministerierne og styrelserne, at det er også noget, de også skal opbygge. Så er der simpelthen behov for at øge vidensgrundlaget om, hvad er krypto, hvad er blockchain, og hvordan er det, vi sørger for, at Danmark som et af de mest digitaliserede lande i verden er med på den her udvikling, og ikke er med til at blokere det. Altså jeg kan bare få et eksempel, da jeg var under en coronaberedskabet og hørte i Tyskland, så faxede de svar på prøver, på covid-prøver, ikke? Altså vi var mile langt væk. Og hvis et digitaliseret land som Danmark ikke kan være med på den her udvikling, så er det altså gået den helt forkerte vej. Og så det håber jeg kan være med til at bidrage til.
Og det er jo et virkelig godt eksempel her, hvor man kan sige, at jeg tror stadig, at vi som branche er svært ved at forstå, at der sidste år var det 450.000 danskere, og så var der 510.000 danskere, der er berørt af det her, og der ikke ligger noget klar lovgivning. Jeg forstår godt politikere, og det er jo derfor, vi virkelig godt kan lide, at der I sørger for vores sikkerhed. Så er der noget her i forhold til den der diskussion om privat sikkerhed, hvornår staten går ind og regulerer, eller altså, kunne måske være jeres tanker på, hvorfor at det egentlig har taget så lang tid, og hvad kunne være et pragmatisk ting for jer til at pitche til jeres kollegaer? Altså er det at sige, at teknologi, det perimeters, der skal vi sikre på, vi sikrer os, og det vil gøre os venner med det. Altså, jeg tror igen sådan, hvad er det, der er gået galt? Jeg tror, det kunne være sådan interessant at høre lidt mere af jeres take på, fordi I har jo forstået det, men hvad er det for jeres kollegaer derinde, der mangler?
Vi skal høre Markus først. Han har både fingrene oppe, og han har udefra ind perspektivet, så kan jeg komme ind fra perspektivet.
Altså, det er en godt forslag. Altså, mit take på det, det er egentlig bare såret i timen. Altså, man har ikke set med, hvordan det udvikler sig. Altså, for mit vedkommende, så er det AI, der for alvor nu, hvor det begynder at blive allemandseje, der begynder at blive implementeret både administrativt, men også klinisk, ikke? Selvom det har været længe undervejs. Og den her udvikling med blockchain og krypto, det er noget, som der har været i lang tid, men som har været ganske få og virket som en nicheområde. Nu spreder det sig. Så nu bliver man egentlig tvunget til, som politikere, at skulle til at forholde sig til, er det fair, at man bliver beskattet værre og har mindre transparens på for eksempel krypto kontra aktier? Altså er det den vej, vi gerne vil gå? Og, så jeg tror helt ærligt, at det er simpelthen fordi, man har sovet i timen og ikke set det den her vej, landet går.
Ja, det tror jeg er helt enig i. Og hvad vil være, hvis I skulle sige noget til at kollegaer, måske på den anden fløj? Hvad vil I prøve på at påpege? Fordi man kan sige, en ting er jo, der er noget finansielt gain, og det er jo oftest det ender lidt med, der er nu der er så mange, der ejer, men vi snakker jo ikke om, nogen, der bygger. Altså, så hvad vil jeg, hvis I skulle sælge den til, lad os sige, den modsatte fløj? Hvad argumentation vil I bruge, som de kan stå indenfor? Fordi det er jo vigtigt, man har jo kæmper nogle forskellige ting, og nogen, der kæmper for lavere beskatning, der er nogen, der kæmper for. Så hvad vil jeres være, hvis I skulle unify en dansk holdning, rent politisk?
Lad mig lige starte med også at svare på spørgsmålet før, fordi jeg tror, en af de ting, der er gået galt, det er, at Folketinget i dag bredt set er besat af en flok boomers, der ingen tech-forståelse har, hvis man sådan skal sætte det helt over. Hvis du tegner en gennemsnits folketingsmedlem, så er det ikke en, der forstår, hvad det handler om overhovedet, og har derfor så ikke rigtig en holdning til det, og kan ikke se de positive sider, eller har heller ikke en interesse i det sådan rigtigt. Så det er den ene side. Og så når man så kobler det med en masse røde partier, som har sådan en instinktiv reaktion, en knee-jerk reaction i retning af, at hvis det er noget, der smager af penge eller finansielle transaktioner, eller noget, man kan spekulere i, måske endda at blive rig på, så er det noget, som de default er imod. Så hvis du kobler de to Venn-diagramringe, så kan du godt se, at man har ikke efterladt meget til det kryptopositive inde i Folketinget. Og det er jo desværre bare sådan det er. Jeg ved, det vil være utrolig svært at overbevise de røde partier, Socialdemokratiet inklusiv, og helt grunden til, at der ikke er sket mere på området i sidste valgperiode, er jo sådan set ikke Venstre eller Moderaternes skyld. Det er jo Socialdemokratiet, der har været nølende på det og siddet på ministerposten osv. Så jeg tror, det er meget, meget svært at få Socialdemokratiet og de mere venstreorienterede partier end dem til at interessere sig for det, og så til at lave nogle mere ordentlige regler, fordi de har den her mavefornemmelse af, at det er noget halvfarligt og noget halvfordækt, og noget, man i virkeligheden skal være imod. Det er jo både noget spekulation, og måske endda kan det smage økonomisk kriminalitet, og der er nogen, der bliver rige på det, Gud forbyde det i sidste ende, og det er lidt med den på, de kører regime. Så jeg tror først, at den rigtige ændring, så hvis jeg skal sætte lidt håbefuldt op, så tror jeg først, at den rigtige ændring, den kommer, hvis vi har noget, der minder om en regering, eller i hvert fald den dominerende del af en regering, som er til højre for Socialdemokratiet.
Enig, Markus?
Jeg vil måske bare gerne supplere op. Altså det der, jeg tror også, jeg vil sige, det bliver jo allemandseje. Altså det er folk, der er 18 og op efter, som faktisk lægger nogle penge og investerer i det her. Det er ikke Bill Gates-typer, altså selvom vi ikke lige har dem 100% som i dag, det er ikke kun dem, det er allemandseje. Og det er ligesom med aktier, det er også alle, der forhåbentlig byder ind på det. Så man har jo to veje. Det ene, det er, at man kan sige, at det er kommet for at blive, og nu understøtter vi, skaber klare regler. Eller også så er der nogen, for måske kunne jeg forestille mig at sige, det gider vi ikke at have. Men det løb, det er kørt. Det er kommet for at blive, så man kan faktisk kun gøre én ting i min optik. Og det er egentlig at sætte sig ned og virkelig få så meget viden om som muligt, og så finde ud af, hvilken vej skal vi gå, og hvilke hensyn skal vi tage, også i forhold til personfølsomme oplysninger. Hvad har myndighederne brug for? Hvad har virksomhederne brug for? Og hvordan kan vi være en drivkraft også inde i EU egentlig til at sørge for, at vi får et fælles fodslag, så vi ikke bliver koblet af til USA og Asien. Altså det er nok den indgangsvinkel, jeg vil tage. Så man kan lukke øjnene eller åbne øjnene og sige, det er kommet for at blive, og det er udviklingen. Den går kun en vej, og det er fremad på det her.
Jeg vil faktisk næsten mere respekt for, hvis der var nogle af dem, der ikke synes særlig godt om krypto- og blockchain-teknologierne, som der sådan har den her aversion, som jeg snakker om før. Hvis de bare tonede rent flag og så sagde, det ønsker vi ikke at have. Altså mere snakker om det som et forbud, ligesom de synes, der skal være et forbud mod atomkraft. Det her med, at man gør i dag med vilje beholde nogle så skadelige skatteregler, at man slår folkeskolelærer i personlig konkurs og førtidspensionister, der bliver modberegnet i deres førtidspension osv., det synes jeg bare er decideret amoralsk, og så hellere sige, det vil vi ikke have, end at designe nogle situationer, hvor der er nogle mennesker, der ryger i nogle utilsigtede fælder, og det koster dem deres private økonomi fuldstændig. Så jeg synes, et eller andet skal der i hvert fald ske.
Og nu synes jeg, det var sjovt, Markus, du nævnte EU. Altså man kan sige, EU har jo både lavet den her European Tech Stack, så der er jo lavet sådan en strategi i forhold til, hvordan man ser europæisk teknologi. Men de har jo allerede gået godt i gang med MiCA, som nu her inden for et par uger skal have sin brush-up i version 2. Plus der kommer Digital Product Passport, der kommer Digital Business Wallet, der kommer Digital Identity, så man kan sige, EU har jo allerede rullet ud, at vi skal digitaliseres. Altså hvad er jeres indtryk i, og der står jo ikke specifikt ud over MiCA noget om krypto, kan man sige, men det står direkte i, hvad kan man sige, den måde, det skal bygges op på, at det er den teknologi, der allerede bliver brugt til det. Hvad er jeres take på den der? Der er jo i bund og grund et europæisk pres på at sige, men vi skal have styr på teknologi, og blockchain er en del af det, og der faktisk kommer til at være en digital wallet, digital identity. Altså det er jo en rimelig stor ting. Hvad er jeres tanker i forhold til sammenkobling til krypto? Lidt ud over bare beskatningen.
Ja, jeg kan godt byde ind til at starte med, mens Markus lige tænker, kan jeg se. Jeg synes jo generelt set, at vi i Europa går for langt med at regulere, før vi overhovedet har teknologier, der har nogen former for adoption. Jeg synes, det er fint, der er nogle spilleregler, og mange af dem er jo basale spilleregler, vi er enige om på tværs af alle teknologier, men også nogle gange nogle konkrete spilleregler, der skal til for, at markedet kan fungere, og at vi kun har de gode sider af ilden, og ikke de dårlige, som jeg startede med at nævne. Så regulering er ikke per se dårligt, men jeg synes bare, at vi er rigtig gode til at sætte en ære i, at vi kommer før med regulering, inden vi overhovedet har teknologierne. Og det er altså teknologierne i sig selv, vi konkurrerer på i en global arena, som jo sætter sig i sikkerhedspolitik, i kapitalflugt, i rigdom og velstand. Og det er jo sidste ende alle de ting, som vi er dødafhængige af for at kunne stå imod de despoter, der tror os. Altså det er jo en stor geopolitisk arena, hvor alle mulige teknologisiloer spiller en rolle, og herunder også krypto blockchain. Så fint, at der kommer noget regulering på, og måske kan den her regulering lige præcis være et af de steder, hvor at den er god for en dansk kryptobranche, fordi at vi nøler så meget i Danmark, at der ligesom kommer noget pres op fra og siger, okay, her kommer der i hvert fald nogle spilleregler, der tillader noget mere, end vi kan i Danmark i dag. Men helt overordnet, så synes jeg, at Danmark og Europa, vi har for travlt med at regulere, før vi overhovedet får udnyttet noget som helst.
Ja, undskyld Markus.
Nej, jeg tror også, det er vigtigt at have fokus på, når den her med regulering i forhold til sagsbehandling af firmaer og alle de ting, hvor lang tid må det være, og hvad konsekvenser skal der egentlig være, hvis staten sørger for langsomt til egentlig at prøve at sagsbehandle det her. Altså for min verden, der er der jo også nogle klare rammer og lovgivning, hvor vi også skal stå til ansvar som region eller myndighed, hvis det er, at man bryder loven over for patienter, eller ja, faktisk for patienter, ikke? Altså så den vinkel tror jeg også er vigtigt at have med egentlig, hvordan sikrer vi en ordentlig retssikkerhed for firmaerne, der er her. Det er også et vinkel, vi er vigtigt, at vi får taget med.
Det er jo der, hvor der desværre også har været meget store konsekvenser her i Danmark. Altså, da MiCA skulle implementeres, de var underbemandet inde i Finanstilsynet, de havde andre opgaver, fordi vi havde formandskabet. Altså, vi har haft en god dialog ind med det, jeg synes faktisk også, mange af ministerierne, altså det er reelle folk, der forstår teknologien og gør noget ved det, de er bare virkelig underbemandet. Jeg vil måske godt tage et skridt tilbage, Steffen, for jeg synes, det er interessant, det som vi har meget snakket om i, hvad kan man sige, inden for vores industri, det er jo, at vi tror på de demokratiske værdier, vi elsker vores samfund, vi elsker at betale skat, det er derfor, vi alle sammen er her, og der kan vi jo også godt lide regulering, men regulering kan hurtigt blive til bureaukrati, og bureaukrati kan hurtigt blive noget, der dræber innovation. Og der er jo en global verden, hvor at innovation og teknologi er ligesom det, der rykker ved noget. Så hvad er jeres tanker, altså måske lidt større skala, ikke kun blockchain, hvordan går man ind og gør et opgør med det? Fordi det er jo en retssikkerhed, altså sådan, jeg tror, alle os kan jo godt lide det. Vi er virkelig glade for, der er det, men det skal jo bare ikke overreguleres. Hvad kan man gøre her?
Ja, du siger jo, det er et kodeord, jeg så har tænkt på, ikke? Det er jo, regulering kan jo både være for lidt regulering og for meget regulering, og jeg synes, vi har en tendens til altid at putte for meget regulering ind, og for tidligt, og måske undlade at have de sandkasser rundt omkring, som der kan opstå nogle spændende nye ting i. Så det vil være mit take, at prøve at se, om man kunne få kalibreret den her reguleringsoptimum mere hen mod der, hvor jeg tror, det er det rigtige sted at have det. Jeg er jo sådan set egentlig frimarkedsliberal, og tænker, at teknologier skal have lov til at blomstre op, og penge og idéer skal have lov til at mødes, og kunder skal have lov til at møde udbydere osv. Men det er jo selvfølgelig klart, at man kan ikke bare slippe alt fuldstændig fri, og også i en verden, hvor vi har så meget andet regulering, så nu er det jo heller ikke noget, at man laver en eller anden form for parallel virkelighed, hvor alle banditter lige pludselig handler kryptovaluta, fordi bankerne er så overreguleret, så man bliver også nødt til at få nogle ting kørende i nogle balancer, i nogle steps. Men jeg synes bare, det er meget symptomatisk, at vi praler at have en AI-regulering på plads, inden der findes en eneste europæisk AI-model, der kan konkurrere med amerikanernes. Og det er lidt det samme her, at vi sidder tilbage i Danmark og håber, at vi får regulering i hovedet, fordi den er mildere end det, som danskernes egen regulering er. Ikke? Og jeg kunne godt tænke mig, at vi var lidt mere angreb bakken, som min skilder sagde, at vi var lidt foran på skiene, og vi måske lå være med at regulere så meget i første omgang, så vi overhovedet kunne få det frem. Så ikke al regulering er dårlig, men det skal kalibreres meget finere.
Jeg tror også, man skal passe på med at se spøgelser, inden der hovedet får lov til at udfolde sig. Altså, det er jo noget af det, man også gør. Man prøver at gribe nogle problemstillinger, som man måske eller ikke har en stor viden om, hvor stort er omfanget. Og også i forhold til, det er også okay at sige, her der kunne vi godt have gjort mere i forhold til reguleringen, når der kommer nogle cases, hvor man siger, at det her, der kan være noget, vi faktisk skal kigge på. Men omvendt er der egentlig også, hvor man egentlig kvæler markedet og siger, har vi gjort noget, som faktisk ikke skaber værdi? Altså, der må jeg bare sige, det er i hvert fald også min erfaring, som at arbejde i den offentlige sektor, at der kommer også ting, hvor man tænker, hvem i alverden er det, hvorfor skal vi bruge så mange kræfter på det her? Der er ikke nogen, der læser det. Altså, nogle gange har det været, for at give et konkret eksempel, så nogle gange, hvis man har overskredet et patientforløb med 1 dag, med under maksimale ventetider, så har man i 12 år skulle lave individuelle redegørelser, som skal godkendes hele vejen op i systemet. Hvor man tænker, hvorfor skal vi bruge så meget tid for klinikere og andre interessenter for noget, hvor man egentlig tænker, at der er noget læring, vi egentlig kunne gøre. Men det er simpelthen for det her kontrolregime, og de gerne vil være sikre på, at man ikke bare ser forbi det. Og der kan jeg forestille mig, at det er noget af det samme, man gør her, hvor man egentlig prøver at sige, nu skal vi være sikre på, at folk gør det fuldstændig efter bogen. Og antager, at det nok kan være, at der er nogen, der har nogle, ikke hensigtsmæssige agendaer. Men man kan også vente den om at sige, vi må også antage, at mange af dem, der investerer i det, den helt almindelige dansker, det er altså ikke nogen banditter, det er nogen, der egentlig bare gerne tænker, at det kunne være fedt. Det kunne være noget, jeg kunne tjene penge på, jeg kunne blive rigere, både mænd og kvinder. Og så må man egentlig ret skytte sig mod dem, som egentlig kunne finde på at misbruge teknologien. Men det er ikke herre fra Danmark, der ved det.
Enig. Hvad jeres, nu har vi sådan små 10 minutter tilbage, så det kunne være interessant at snakke lidt med det her fremtidsperspektiv. Man kan sige, både Markus, du står over for en kæmpe mulighed, og Steffen, du har jo altså virkelig været aktiv derinde, hvis man skulle sætte noget fremtidsperspektiv på det her. Andet end selvfølgelig er klar lovgivning det vigtige. Men så det kunne være interessant at sige, men jeg tror, der er mange, der mangler sådan lidt en mission. Hvad er det egentlig, I ser, I sådan, kan bidrage til inde på borgen? Inden for teknologi, og selvfølgelig også for blockchain, måske sådan lidt mere i, lad os kalde det punktform, så vælgerne har en mulighed for også at forstå lidt, hvad I arbejder for, andet end bare gennemsigtig kryptolovgivning. Men selvfølgelig inden for den færre.
Det er et stort spørgsmål, det der. Jeg synes, jeg synes jo i første omgang, at bygget op i en pyramide, og ting, der ligesom skal være forudsat, for at man kan nå hen til den vision, så skal vi jo have et godt valgresultat i morgen til Blå Blok samlet set. Det er jo det vigtigste. Det næste er jo selvfølgelig, at de folk, som der har forståelse for teknologi og interesserer sig for det her, de så også bliver valgt ind, og kan så sætte præg på sine partier, eller vores partier henholdsvis. Og så skal vi jo også håbe på, at der er en eller anden form for parlamentarisk konstituering af en regeringskonstellation, som der ender med rent faktisk at have en overvægt af blålige partier, lad mig sige det sådan mindst, så vi rent faktisk kan rykke på den her dagsorden og have noget at skulle have sagt, så det ikke bare bliver oppositionspolitikere som mig, eller små interne kræfter i regeringen, der ikke rigtig kan flytte skibet. Så det er måske det vigtigste. Men hvad skal det så lede til? Det skal selvfølgelig lede til først og fremmest, at man får normaliseret den her beskatning, der er på krypto, så det ikke bliver sådan noget, hvor man slår folk i gulvet. Så det er den ene vigtige side. Og den anden, det er måske at lade nogle rettigheder følge med, at man ikke kan som bank sige, at man ikke må lade en transaktion flyde ind og ud af sin bank, der kommer fra et eller andet kryptobørs, eller fra et andet sted, man ikke synes så godt om som bank, fordi bankerne er bange for at få nogle bøder i hovedet. Det kunne man jo så sige, ja, de bøder, dem skal I ikke have i hovedet, hvis I lever op til XYZ, og så videre, så man ligesom får normaliseret det lidt ind i systemet, så det ikke er anderledes at være en fiat-vekseler, end det er at være en kryptovekseler. Tag et eksempel som det. Og så skal det jo den store vision, at når den helt op på top med byden, så skal Danmark jo være et foregangsland for at kunne bygge opstartsvirksomheder i, og meget gerne også opstartsvirksomheder på de her teknologier. Det er et stort internationalt marked med programmerbare penge og blockchain-teknologierne bredt ud i alt muligt. Altså lige fra hvordan landejerskab og skøder bliver styret i Brasilien til hvad man ellers kan udnytte teknologier til i Danmark. Måske endda i sundhedsvæsenet, who knows, at dine patientpapirer de løber med rundt på sådan noget. I don't know, men det er jo ligesom bare gøde jorden til den her teknologiske udvikling kan ske, og der skyder vi os selv i foden fra start.
Jeg tror også, for at supplere op, vi er også nødt, Jeg kunne forestille mig, at det bliver nemmere for dem, der måske ikke har det helt store kendskab til det her, hvis man kommer med skrækhistorierne. Er det virkelig sådan et land, vi gerne vil drive, hvor der en helt almindelig dansker lige pludselig kan stå i en meget uheldig situation, fordi de har lagt nogle penge et sted? Og så også tale sagen op, altså simpelthen vinde dagsordenen på, hvad er det her for en teknologi, og hvad er det vi kan være med, som Steffen siger, i forhold til udvikling og eksport. Altså, vi kan have så meget frontrunner, hvis vi egentlig gerne vil det, men det kræver, at folk kan se potentialet, og de godt kan se, lige som det er lige nu, så det er under al kritik, den måde, det bliver styret på. Det skal vi gøre bedre.
Det lyder rigtig godt. Jeg værdsætter virkelig, I har taget tiden til det. Vi ved, det er virkelig en travl tid her op til valget, men jeg synes, det er virkelig vigtigt, at der er nogen, der går ud og fortæller deres holdninger. Og jeg synes også, det er vigtigt, I havde muligheden for at fortælle mere end bare beskatningen. Så vi vil godt takke jer begge to for jeres tid, og igen opfordre alle, der lytter med. Nu har I hørt nogle folk, der har udover en klar holdning til, hvad der skal ske med det konkrete udfordring, men faktisk også har nogle visioner for Danmark, som vi her i Nordic Blockchain Association virkelig skubber på. Vi tror, at den her teknologi har så store muligheder. Altså, det er gennemsigtighed. Vi lever i en verden, hvor gennemsigtighed virkelig er vigtig. Og det er også virkelig vigtigt, at man kigger på, hvor skal der ikke være gennemsigtighed? Hvor der er privacy? Nu snakker vi om sundhedsdata, og der er jo danske partier, der har lavet projekt Oscar. Altså, vi har jo allerede danske selskaber, der har kigget på de her ting, men før vi kan bygge en stærk sektor, har vi brug for styr på det banale. Så Markus, Steffen, mange tak for jeres tid, og vi ønsker jer alt held og lykke i morgen. Og igen en opfordring til alle dem, der lytter eller læser med. Her er der nogle folk, der kæmper for jer. Så brug jeres stemme fornuftigt.
Tak.
Goddag. Ja, så er vi færdige. Og jeg tænker, Morten kommer på igen. Så Morten.
Hey, yes, but in English, not in Danish. So we just want to thank all viewers that have been following us at LinkedIn or YouTube or at Kaupr, and also remind people that the recordings are available on the same links that we have shared for the live events. And tomorrow at 11 o'clock, there will be a new live event for Sweden. And so we hope we can see you again then. And this is the plan for the whole week, where then we have Sweden tomorrow, Finland on Wednesday, and on Thursday we will have 2 different live events. The first one for Norway, and then we have a summary where we look at all the Nordic trends and perhaps also looking into how the Nordics perform compared to other countries. So thank you very much, and welcome to another live event during this week.